It's Mike Wise, Eric Newman with Pure Hoops Media, 11 o'clock on a Wednesday night. And basically, we put this together, Eric, because the NBA, as we know it, is in purgatory right now. We don't know what's happening. The Bucks decided to boycott. All the other teams in the playoffs decided the same thing. And the season is in jeopardy. Let's just be honest. The NBA Board of Governors are going to meet tomorrow. There's so much news happening right now. Your gut on what happens and when.
Historic, Mike. My gut is this is a historic moment.
Yep.
That's not rocket science, but I think something big is coming. I think there's going to be a major next step forward, or else we are left wondering, as we discussed as we were planning this, where does this action lead? Where does this action lead? And I don't think this is just enough to boycott a day or two. And we know that there was a team vote as well. We don't know what those results mean, but we know that they're talking about immediate and big picture action here. That's what we do know.
Yeah, we do know that. And we also know that, and I think we both feel the same way, that we're in support of these athletes. And when
100% times 100% times 100%. So this is overdue concerning what has continued to go on.
Well, I remember having Garrett
what continues to go on is crazy. Garrett Temple was a great guest specifically on this topic.
Yeah, and he was just, and he even sounded, when he knew he was going to go into the bubble, he almost wasn't sure that he wanted to because of all the racial unrest going on outside. So a lot of these guys went into this NBA life, so to speak, hermetically sealed from the rest of society with reservations. Yeah, there were reservations to begin with, because and when you hear Chris Webber, former player, Kenny Smith walking off the TNT set, and how convicted and personal this is for them, I don't feel like as a white guy that I have any say over how they feel about this, because I feel angst and a real uncomfortability about it. It makes me sick when I see a man shot in the back 7 times, a white police officer, and a black victim as he's getting into his car. And I'm looking at this guy, Jacob Blakely, and go, that could be anybody in this country, but it's not. It's a black man. And that's what they see, and that's what we see. And, I don't think this is for show. I think it's real. I'm with you. How long does it go on? When does it how far does it go? And it brings up, for me anyway, I don't know about you, I wanted to see a season, but between the pandemic and everything going on outside the NBA bubble, I almost felt like you had to have a cognitive dissonance to go in there and just play basketball. You almost had to say, the world's not falling apart outside because we got this game and we're back. We're resilient. I just feel like sports in general has no place in society right now in a weird way. And I know that's hypocritical on my front, because sports journalism is how I made my bones and what I do. But it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel whole or right now.
I can see everything you're saying. I was struggling with it at first, but you who know me well know how much I love the game. So it was a welcomed addition back, but it felt off in many ways. And then you're in parallel with the news cycle and what's going on and the rhetoric and the divide and the hatred. And, they're a bubble, and they're a great example for how to combat what our government messed up with COVID-19. Yeah. The example they set was unbelievable, but they couldn't be trapped inside this bubble in terms of what was going on in these streets and in the everyday world. You can't be immune to that just because you're in this environment. And I'm beyond proud of these guys. And we've seen the individual step up. We've seen the team step up and do things. But now to have it across multiple teams, being talked about across the league. And as we were talking about as we were getting started, support from ownership.
Yep.
And they are standing by their guys. And Adam Silver, being the great commissioner he is wanting to do everything that he can, I think, to make this, forget meaningful. Like this is a moment in time where it has to lead to the next action. We keep saying it. The commissioner recognizes it for real. So let's see how many owners are on board, and then let's see how ownership and the star power of many of these players and their brands have an effect on corporate dollar and media and spends and the economy. And then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I don't know where it leads. But I do know that it's amazing to me how influential the NBA has become, not just as a sports league, but just as a cultural trendsetter. I mean, the reason we shut down as a country and we began to shut down is when Rudy Gobert tested positive for the Jazz, and players on the Sacramento Kings, and they didn't want to play because the referee did the Nuggets game a couple nights before.
That game was about to start.
The game was about to start, and they said,
as the late game.
Wait a minute. And Adam Silver realized, wait a minute, my players are now scared to play. I'm not going to put them out there because it's not going to be a good product. It's going to cause some division between our workforce and management, and we don't want to do it. And now what's going on is, like, once again, the NBA starts this. 3 Major League Baseball games are postponed because players aren't interested in getting on the field in the midst of all this racial unrest in this country. Sports, as I've said, sports is, in some ways, people want it back and they want it to be resilient. Well, it's not. It's a mirror of what's really how bad we are and how screwed up we are right now. When your coaches have to wear masks and there are no fans in the stands, it's not like, the Yankees when after 9/11 or the New Orleans Saints after Katrina. The sports isn't lifting people up as much as it's providing a distraction, but it's not. And one way these guys decide they can lead right now in society is say, no, we don't want to play because we think what's happening outside of our little worlds and our little bubbles is more important than these games. And if that's the case, and that's the majority of them, God bless them. That's how change gets started. That's how, it's something when you look your kids in the eye, and when you look, well, you don't have any yet, but you will at some point. You feel good about, like, being on the right side of history. And
I just can't imagine being on the other side.
Well, I can, because I know some of the yahoos are, but I don't want to go into that. That'll just derail this quick hitter.
Yeah, no longer quick. In closing on this one, and then obviously there'll be a lot more for us to dig into as things happen. What's your hope for what a big next step could be? One thing to keep it moving.
Well, my hope is that they get scab players, and you and I will actually be on an NBA team in the next week.
I don't think
that being impossible, my hope is that there's some systemic change in society, and as the NBA players get together and basically become an example for all of the sports world, that people will stop and say, there are things more important than these games. And right now, police reform is one of them, and ensuring justice is served in some of these cases. I mean, on some levels, man, I hate seeing these videos. I watch them once and that's it. And I don't want to see them. I don't want my kids to see them. And it's almost like it's almost like crime porn in a weird way. It's like I don't want to see it. But I also think to myself, like, if you're a citizen journalist, supposedly, and there's no other documentation of this stuff. And we don't hear about this guy and and how he was shot 7 times in the back, other than through maybe a media report. And when you see it, it's visceral.
This is the only way it stops. This is the only way it stops, having to see it.
Yeah.
And part of the issue is so many people are already desensitized to it. And it's a ton every day. It's coming at you every day.
Yeah.
And we're the ones that don't have to worry about these experiences.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is.
It's crazy. All right. There was a vote tonight. There's a huge meeting Thursday. So let's see what's next in this historically, how should we say it? Nightmarish, dystopian, sci-fi 2020, # Twilight Zone.
All of that's
Is that
true.
it?
All that's true. Remember when we started this thing and we thought we were going to talk about basketball?
Yeah.
That seems like a long time ago, doesn't it?
We still have to get to the Sidney Moncrief retrospective, which we'll get to when things
Is
really
that
calm
shirt
down.
that says legend on it for Larry Bird?
It's the Larry Legend shirt. Yeah, I knew
Yeah.
I was coming on with the Larry Legend of the Do It at Home podcast, whatever it takes, shoot with a
Yeah.
broken finger, play with a bad back, Mike Wise. So I had to
You know
dress
how
appropriately.
they had called Tamir Goodman the Jewish Jordan, right?
Yeah.
They call me the Gentile Paul McKeskey.
Perfect.
Oh,
Perfect.
wait, Paul McKeskey was Gentile. Never mind.
My man, take care. We'll do this again
You
soon.
too. All right.
Thank you, Mike Wise. Pure
Yeah,
Hoops,
see
quick
ya.
hitters. Stick with us. Stay pure.